Why do I feel like I'm forgetting about something? Does it still work? Let's begin. Hello guys, I am finally back. Wait, is there any of you even left out there? Yeah. Well, anyways, it's time we start. And as you saw by that intro, we'll be revisiting an old classic of mine, Prehistory is Weird. I remember that video with a hint of cheesiness. But now we're in a different era. This time we're going quite a few steps further. We're doing 21 weird prehistoric animals, as you clearly saw by that intro. Okay, for this video, we aren't doing it in any random order this time. We're going from the start of life. At first, Earth was a really inhospitable place. But with time, comet strikes, and the formation of our own moon, Earth got life! At first, life was really simple. But then, an explosion of life occurred. And this resulted in Anomalocaris, which is in fact a relative of Opabinia. This invertebrate used its lobe-like structures on its body to sort of move around. And it had over 16,000 retinas, and used those tusk-like things to eat things. And nothing like this exists today, so it is truly a shame that humans have only been on this earth for so long. We missed out on all the action. But then again, we may be causing some of it nowadays. Next, we move on to the Devonian with Stethecanthus. Sharks today are known as feared ocean beasts, and this fellow was relatively normal, other than, of course, its dorsal crest. Also, it was actually really small for a shark, only a few feet long. It's just interesting how evolution let that crest evolve. If evolution can allow a shark to evolve the equivalent of an anvil on its head, maybe it can give me wings! I'm gonna try! Moving on to the land, we have Meganeura. If you're afraid of bugs today, be glad you don't live in the Cambrian! I mean, I don't think I could just include Meganeura. There's Arthropleura, a giant centipede about as long as a crocodile. And there's spiders the size of cats! Yeah, it was a terrifying time to be alive. And our ancestors were only, what, like, this big? Terrifying! But, back on track, Meganeura was very similar to an eagle. It would carry its prey off the ground and then eat it. In its weird insect ways. It is interesting how unchanged they are after millions of years, because this was over 300 million years ago. Odd. Indeed. Moving back into the ocean, we have Stethecanthus' relative, Helicorpio. Oh, good God, what is that? Tyler, relax. Already, my sources indicate that these sharks' weird teeth grow in a horrifying spiral. And they can grow as big as great whites! Oh, good God, imagine if this was alive today! Ah! Okay, let's move on. But I swear, I better not see anything like that again. I swear. Okay, let's move on to Astemnosuchus. This reptile lived during the Permian in Russia. It was an omnivorous therapsid. Though those are our ancestors. Say hi to Grandpa, kids. In my day. So, what is the first thing you notice about this guy? I'm sure it's those toes! Just kidding. It's obviously those weird horn-like growths upon it, which scientists are still hypothesizing on what it was used for. Some say it was display, some say it was defense. Who knows? They could have been used for cooking. Nothing's impossible. So, the Permian extinction nearly kills everything, and then we're in the age of dinosaurs! Yeah! But those come later. Before those terrible lizards came along a squama. This creature lived actually several million years before the first dinosaur came along. Actually, it was a very distant relative of the dinosaurs, belonging to the archosaurs, which is also what led to the dinosaurs' evolution. Like many of the creatures you'll see here, it was fairly normal, with the exception of those feathers. There are many theories on its uses, like many things in the paleontology community. For this one, some people say it might have been used for display, it could have been used for flight, heck, it could have even been used for both. As I mentioned before, it was very distantly related to the dinosaurs. So scientists think it could be evidence that nearly all dinosaurs had feathers. That's right! Get ready for fluffy rexes and feathered ceratopsids, boys! Speaking of non-dinosaurian relatives, Chiropteryx. Okay, what fantasy novel is this from? This can't be real. There's just no freaking way. That's it. I'm done. Okay, I guess I need to entertain you guys. So, Chiropteryx. Legs so long they stretch from USA to Mother Russia. Let's just move on. Okay, now onto the dinosaurs. With Scansoriopteryx. If Therizinosaurus was torture for the nail salon people, Scansoriopteryx was freaking hell for them. When first discovered in 2002, it was presumed that it used its weird long claw-like things, similarly to an eye, to dig out insects from the trees. In fact, if not for a recent discovery, it would have lived very, very similarly to an eye. After some time, a theory came up that it actually used its very long claws like wings to soar through the treetops. Which honestly makes sense, because in the future, paleontologists could misinterpret another flying creature for a creature with enormous claws. Now, we move on to the dinosaurian equivalent of a dragon. No. What I'm talking about is Yi-Chi. Yeah, that is the dinosaurian equivalent of a dragon. I'm sure that was the biggest disappointment you've ever seen in your life, isn't it? Admit it. But back on track. This little guy lived in China and used his wings to fly through the treetops looking for insects. Yeah, people, this is the closest we're ever going to get to a dragon. Accept the reality. Okay, now let's look at a sauropod. We all know that the most defining trait of a sauropod is that they're big and they have long necks. What happens when you remove both those things? You get brachycephalopin! Look at its little neck! Also, this thing was tiny. I mean, it was only like 10 meters tall. If you walk by a herd of these, you have to be careful not to get some of it on your shoe. It had a lifestyle very similar to an iguanid, like a Parasaurolophus, Saurolophus. Yeah, you get the idea. Moving on with more odd sauropods, we have Augustinia. This is the equivalent of a dinosaur on steroids. Normal sauropods may have had some spikes, as many scientists do agree on that today, but look at this guy! He's like the Chuck Norris of sauropods! Wait. Call meme setter. I have a new meme for them! I mean, just look at the size of those spikes! You could ink close to dry on those! Other than the odd spikes, not much is known on this dinosaur as they left very little remains. Hiding in anonymity. I like it of you, Augustinia. Good for you. Okay, on to a flying pterosaur, Pterodostro. Now this pterosaur was relatively normal, like many other creatures I've said, as I have mentioned before. Except for that bill. It had thousands of tiny bristles on it, which it used to filter feed other organisms. Tiny ones, of course. I mean, you're not going to be seeing it like getting a T-Rex in there. That would be kind of incredible to see. This is very similar to a modern-day baleen whale. And I can only imagine what a trip to the dentist for this thing is like. Must be horrible. Okay, our next three creatures lived around the exact same place, in Mongolia. Firstly, we have Dinocheirus. When first discovered in the 60s, they only found a pair of arms, hence the name Terrible Claw. For decades, scientists were debating and debating what could have owned such hands. They imagined the monstrous creature tearing apart other dinosaurs in order to get it. But in 2014, they finally discovered more remains. And what they got was that thing! Yep, 50 years of debating a monstrous beast. And we get a giant turkey. And I thought Yichi was a disappointment. It was a relative of Gallimimus, and it possessed a beak and a humped back, and most likely had feathers. Yep. And it was a herbivore. So much for that ferocious beast. Another odd pterosaur is Nyctosaurus. This piscivore lived in the western U.S. during the late Cretaceous. Now, the most odd thing about this creature is the crest, which was only present in adults. It was so big! It was 50% of this creature! And I may or may not have just discovered why it went extinct. It literally has the loser symbol on it. And when I do this... Am I Nyctosaurus yet? Our second bizarre Mongolian dinosaur is Syntosaurus, which was a hadrosaur. This creature has been dubbed the unicorn dinosaur, but some other depictions say otherwise. Yellow? Wait, what do you mean that Syntosaurus doesn't look like that anymore? Oh. They discovered more fossils, changing its crest shape? Thanks, plot convenience! As plot convenience told me, Syntosaurus no longer looks like that. It now has a much longer crest, and yeah, I am glad because of that, since it's no longer a... Finally, we have Mononicus. If you thought T-Rex had small arms, you've seen nothing yet. Believe me. I mean, look at this guy! He doesn't even have hands! Just has a little claw. Little claw! Little claw. Couldn't even. It was useless. Its hands were useless. It wasn't even a hand. They were just useless. Useless little claws. I can only imagine what the other dinosaurs had to say about this guy. So the dinosaurs die off and mammals get their chance to get weird. Which brings us to Calicotherium. Hey kids, you ever want to see what happens when a gorilla and a horse have a baby? You get this thing! Actually, it was distantly related to horses and was widespread throughout Africa, Europe, and Asia. It also walked on its knuckles and was a vegetarian, so yeah. Looks aren't everything, folks. Looks ain't everything. It has a panda, only without all the fluff. Okay, now for a prehistoric gopher. Wait, a gopher? What's so strange about those? Okay, I finally understand. This is Ceratogalus, which it is in fact the only rodent to possess horns upon its head. Most people think it was used for defense because most other theories have been, well, disproven. And yeah, other than that, it was pretty normal, so, next! Okay, now we have Platybalon. And oh jeez, what Star Wars planet is that from? Wait, this is the ancestor of elephants? I guess why people aren't accepting evolution. They just can't accept the fact that elephants at one point looked like that! What even? So these guys lived in forests and used their horrifying jaws to strip the bark off trees. Mother Nature? Were you on something when you made these creatures? Because I think we need to have a talk. A few million years later, we got Gomphotherium, which I guess Platybalon decided to get some plastic surgery. Don't say I blame him. But this creature possessed 4 tusks and a trunk. A tiny trunk, not a big one. Yeah. It survived pretty much until the Ice Age. And, yeah, that's about all I have to say on that one. Some of these creatures don't have much info on them. For our final creature, we have one of the weirdest mammals that may have ever lived. This is Macrauchenia. This mammal has no living relatives. And it possessed a trunk and had 3 toes. It survived in isolation on South America back when it was on its own, but once a land bridge between North and South America formed, it died off because better creatures came along. And then mankind evolved, nukes were invented, and everyone died. The end.